Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's Random Acts of Poetry Day, Tone. You got a poem for us?
Yes, I do. Roses are red, violets are nifty. Nebraska beat Northwestern, but you kept it within 50.
Yeah,
That's a
narrowly.
great poem.
Yeah, narrowly within 50,
Great.
apparently. You know,
I love that. You know, I root for Northwestern. I was sorry to see that happen.
Yeah, people now at Northwestern have heard you say you want your grandkids to be purple. And there's interest in that on the Evanston campus.
Good.
How about that?
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Urban Meyer apologizes. Matt Nagy makes a big announcement, and the Nets are still trying to figure out what to do about Kyrie Irving. But we begin today with Boston beating the Yankees in the wild card game last night, 6-2. The Red Sox got to Garrett Cole early. He was gone in the third. The big play of the game was in the top of the sixth when Aaron Judge was thrown out at home, trying to make the score 3-2 Boston. Wilbon, do you come to praise the Red Sox or bury the Yankees?
Tone, I think it's easy to bury the Yankees, and that's what we do now. People have to have hot takes where they criticize and rip somebody. And when you have an ace who's out there for $1 trillion and he doesn't come through in a playoff game, you could go that way. I'm going to praise the Red Sox. And it all comes down, and I think you're going to agree with this, it comes down to essentially one play. That if it didn't decide the game, it changed the momentum of the game. And it's the play, of course, where Kike Hernandez, makes a great pickup, fires a ball to Bogarts, who makes a great relay throw to home, and there's a nice tag up the line where the ball needs to be placed on Judge. And, I mean, come on, you're looking at what that inning could have been a big inning. You're thinking 3-3, maybe the Yankees take the lead. They didn't. They got out of that with just one run. I think that inning and Boston's activity there kept the game in their favor. They kept the momentum, so I'm going to praise the Red Sox. Is that okay?
I agree with you. They were decisively better when they had to be. I'm not going to bury the Yankees. I'm going to bury myself. I've gotten everything wrong for the last month in baseball. Every prediction. I had the Phillies winning because they had an easy schedule. I was wrong. I had Toronto getting in. I was wrong. I had the Dodgers chasing down the Giants. I was wrong. I had the Yankees in and out day after day after day, wrong each time. I said Garrett Cole, with that 6.15 ERA in the last 5 starts, would reverse himself and be great, wouldn't spit the bit. I was wrong, and had Evaldi having a bad game the second straight time against the Yankees, even though prior to that he was great. I was wrong about all of that. I'm not going to be wrong about this. The guy that I feel for is Stanton. In the first inning, he hits one out. We all thought it was out. He stood at the plate. It went off the wall. He got a single. He hit the ball where they got Judge. He thought it was out. I thought it was out. They get no runs, Mike. It should have been 3 runs off Stanton's bat, and they got no runs at all. The Red Sox beat them. It's not the Yankees, not bury the Yankees. Red Sox beat them.
And you're going to say this is typical of me real quickly. You know what stood out to me in that game? Home runs hit by 2 ex-Cubs who were let go in the middle of the summer.
Legit.
Rizzo and Schwarber.
Legit.
How about that?
Legit.
That's what stood out to me.
Good.
Let's move to tonight's wild card game in the National League. Cardinals at Dodgers. It's a matchup of 2 of the great franchises in baseball. And it's a matchup of 2 senior aces. 40-year-old Adam Wainwright and 37-year-old Max Scherzer, your boy. So I've been warning you, and the Dodgers, if anybody's listening, about this game for weeks. Now, are you going to listen to me finally and take Wainwright and the Cardinals?
No, of course not. I'm going to take Max Scherzer, the Warrior God. And what I'm afraid of is by taking him, he will lose this particular game. The last 2 times he started, he had his 2 worst starts of the year with the Dodgers. He gave up 5 earned in each of them. His ERA was 8.17. So this is my great fear, that he's going to get out there and it's not going to go right. The difference, and the reason I'm picking them, is because every time Scherzer has started for the Dodgers this year, the Dodgers have won that game. Even the 2 games where he gave up 5 earned runs each. I don't mean some of the time. I don't mean most of the time.
Right.
In the 11 starts that Scherzer has made, the Dodgers have won them all. I think on muscle memory alone, they win this game because Max Scherzer's out there.
Well, Max Scherzer's been great in the clutch in the postseason. We've seen this. I mean, the Washington Nationals wear World Series rings in large part because of Max Scherzer.
That's right.
And Tony,
that's right.
But I will say this. I mean, Max Muncy's absence, that's a big deal for the Dodgers. And, And I'll tell you something else. I understand that Kershaw wasn't going to start this game, and he's not going to play now in the postseason. That's still an absence, because a meaningful absence to me, because we've seen Kershaw come in from the bullpen in the postseason and pitched well. At times, he didn't even start games well. So we've seen that. These are major absences to me. And again, I've heard I just think that the Cardinals must feel right now, they dumped the last couple of games to the Cubs. It didn't matter. They won 19 of 20. They have to feel invincible, Tone. Now, maybe they're not, because you run up against Scherzer. If Scherzer's on,
that's right,
he's going to beat you. So I'm rooting for Max Scherzer and the Dodgers, but I'm afraid, as I always am with the Cardinals.
You said that Max Muncy is out. Yesterday you said J.D. Martinez was out. It didn't seem to hurt the Red Sox.
It didn't.
My fear on Scherzer, I don't think the Cardinals have any more momentum. I think that's gone. The Dodgers have won 15 straight at home, and this is at home. My fear, because I've watched Scherzer for years, is he throws a couple of homers early. And instead of being solo shots, it's 4-0 in the third, and they lose. I hope that doesn't happen. We move on. To the best of our knowledge, Kyrie Irving remains unvaccinated. Should he not get vaccinated, he will not be allowed to play or practice in New York City. That's 41 home games, 2 road games at the Garden, 1 road game at San Francisco. Irving will be barred from playing 44 of the Nets' 82 games, more than half. The Nets have reportedly made no decision as to whether to accommodate Irving as a part-time player. Wilbon, how should the Nets handle this?
String him out. Put him on ice. Do to him what he does to others. Just say, Kyrie, just stay by the phone. We'll be in touch. Yeah, we'll talk to you. We'll check on him every day. Make sure he's okay. Send him some carry out. And then put his butt on ice, because they can win without him. If you got KD and Harden, they can win without him. And when I say win, I mean the Eastern Conference. I mean the whole thing. That team is good enough, balanced enough, deep enough, and they got 2 great Hall of Fame stars who want to win right now. Kyrie Irving is toxic. He is disruptive wherever he is. That's one reason why LeBron James is like, enough. Seriously, enough. Even though he had a shot to win a series, a championship. Put him on ice. Arm's length. We'll get back to you.
I would go further than that. By 6 o'clock tonight, I would trade him. I would trade him to the Philadelphia 76ers. I would let Doc Rivers have this problem. Doc Rivers wants a point guard who will shoot. Kyrie Irving will shoot. Kyrie Irving will miss about 7 or 8 games if he plays in Philadelphia. He misses 10 to 15 for what he calls personal reasons anyway. That is a trade I would make, and I would make it for another reason, Mike, because I think Ben Simmons on Brooklyn is great, and I think Kyrie Irving on Philadelphia is great. If he gets vaccinated today, Mike, and I think he could, I would still make that trade, because Kyrie Irving is not, to me, a team player. He has no team ethic.
He's not.
It has to be his way or the highway.
Yeah.
He should be a tennis player. He should be a golfer. Yeah. He shouldn't be on a team anymore, but I'd trade him today.
Yeah, I wouldn't make that trade. One, I don't want Ben Simmons taking the ball out of James Harden's hand. I don't. Sorry. James Harden's got the ball. I know what James Harden can do. I don't want Ben Simmons with the ball in that situation. And maybe Kyrie's good for Philadelphia, maybe he isn't. But if I'm the Nets, I know that the team I've got, minus Kyrie Irving, can win. I know this because Kevin Durant's shoe, make him wear a slightly smaller one. Reduce the toe by an inch. They can win. Yeah. They don't need Kyrie, and they don't need to bring in Ben Simmons, who brings his own problems, Tone. They're not off the court baggage or anything bad like that. They're basketball issues.
I would go to Kevin Durant, and I would say, I know he's your boy, but you got James Harden. We can win without him.
You can't win without him.
Let's take a break. Coming up, Bears news. We're going to ask Peter King what he thinks of Justin Fields being named the starter going forward.
And we'll ask him why the Patriots would trade a former NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
We have a ton of NFL news to get to today, so let's bring in someone who actually knows what he's talking about. Our great friend from NBC Sports, repping the shirt, Mr. Peter King. Peter, we're going to start with this. This is for Wilbon. This is just for him. Bears coach Matt Nagy named Justin Fields the Bears starter, quote, going forward, unquote. Is that the right decision for Fields and the Bears?
I mean, we'll see. I'm in the camp that it's always better, especially when you got a rotten offensive line, to sit the rookie and have him carry the clipboard as long as possible. I mean, Tom Brady did it, Drew Brees did it, Aaron Rodgers did it, Patrick Mahomes did it. I've been amazed to see all of the outcry that says that you got to play Justin Fields and you got to play him now. I don't get it.
Well, neither have I, Peter, and all I've got invested in this stupid team is about 60 years of my life. And I kept saying, you people are curving the rest of the league. You're not watching the Bears to see how bad that offensive line is. But, Peter, I wake up every day angry that Matt Nagy is still the coach of this team. Is the seat still hot under him, or can Justin Fields actually get him off the hook by being a 500 quarterback?
Justin Fields could save Matt Nagy's job. There's no question about it. If he plays great. If he plays great, but he's got to play great. And it's going to be hard to play great when you've got to rush almost every pass you throw. Look, I think Matt Nagy at the start of the year said the right thing. He said it to me in training camp. He said, listen, this is not about developing a quarterback for 2 years. It's about developing a guy for 15 years. I'm not playing him until he's ready. And obviously those plans change because now he feels like he has to.
We will move on. We'll move on to Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer apologized to the entire Jaguars team at a meeting this morning. Is that enough to end his problems, or could his job actually be in jeopardy for real?
I think the only way his job is in jeopardy, Tony, is if he does something else really stupid. And look, he made a round to the entire organization. Basically, he talked to every influential person in that organization in the last 2 days. And he said, I'm sorry, I blew it. It was dumb. Shouldn't have done this. Urban Meyer is humiliated right now by what happened, as well he should be, thinking that there aren't cameras everywhere in Columbus, Ohio, at a bar when he's out, not flying back to Jacksonville with the team after the game on Thursday when you're 0-4. You've got your tail tucked firmly between your legs. I don't think Urban Meyer should be fired for what happened, but I do think he's got to wake up and start being an adult.
Peter, some rather surprising news, I guess, to most of us, that the Patriots would trade Pro Bowl cornerback Stephon Gilmore to the Panthers for a 6th-round pick in 2023. One, why do the Patriots want to dump a player as good as Gilmore, although I know he's been injured? And two, why isn't a recent former Defensive Player of the Year worth more than a 6th-round draft pick in return?
Mike, he's a victim of his age. He's 31 years old, coming off torn quad surgery 10 months ago. And the fact is, wherever he goes, whoever, when he goes to Carolina, they know that he wants a new contract. And he'll probably play this year, and they'll make that decision at the end of this year. But, Mike, the salary cap going down $16 million this year, there are not many teams that can afford his salary this year, which is only $7 million. But knowing that if they want to keep him after this year, it's not just going to be the $7 million, it's going to be a lot of money. Panthers had $19.2 million under the cap. If he shows well the rest of this year, they could re-sign him for the long term and afford it. There just aren't many people in the NFL, not many GMs, that have enough money laying in the couch cushions that can go out and sign Stephon Gilmore.
We will get you out of here on this, but it is impossible to have you on this show and not talk about either Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, because everybody talks about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. So we'll go with Rodgers. I'm sure you saw the goo-goo eyes that Rodgers and Mike Tomlin were making the other night at each other after the original report that Aaron Rodgers loved Mike Tomlin. So because of what's happening in Pittsburgh and because of what's happening with Rodgers, can you see that as a possibility for Rodgers next year actually going to Pittsburgh? And if you can't, where do you see the possibilities?
I think Charles Robinson, of Yahoo, when he wrote this, I think he was on target. Now, I have absolutely no idea where Aaron Rodgers could go next year. I want to remind you one thing, Tony. If Aaron Rodgers plays next year for the Green Bay Packers after the 2022 season, he'll be a free agent. 3 years younger than Tom Brady was a free agent when he left for Tampa, and he'd be able to pick any team he wants. As it is right now, he can't pick any team he wants in 2022. If he leaves the Packers in 2022, it will be via a trade. The Packers will not release him. So he's not going to have a choice of going to Pittsburgh next year. Now, he would if he stayed in Green Bay one more year, and then he'd be a free agent. That is the complicating factor. If the Denver Broncos offer the moon to the Green Bay Packers for Aaron Rodgers next February and March, I think he's going to go there. I think the Packers will take the best AFC offer possible, and if they can't send him to an AFC team, a relatively speaking harmless NFC team that they wouldn't play every year.
Thank you, Peter. As always, pleasure
Peter,
to have you.
good to have you
Thank
back.
you.
It's been too long.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Let's take one last break, but coming up, the Padres make a decision about Jace Tingler's future. Wonder what that is.
Tony will preview Carmelo Anthony's debut as a Laker, not a Knick.
Is he old enough?
A Laker.
Is he old enough to be a Laker? Is he
He
over
may not be.
45 yet?
May not be. You know who looks great as a Laker, former Laker? James Worthy.
Number one pick in the NFL draft isn't having anywhere near the cushy ride he had in college so far. At Clemson, Lawrence made the playoffs each of his 3 years and won the national championship in 2018. Lawrence lost only 2 games in college. He had 90 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. In Jacksonville, Lawrence already 0-4. He's completing only 57% of his passes. He has 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Plus, the Jaguars are waist deep in the mud with this Urban Meyer mess. You have to wonder if Lawrence is already sour on Jacksonville.
No, before he gets sour on anybody, let me just offer up 2 names of people who were in similar predicaments. I'm talking about on-field stuff now. Troy Aikman, Peyton Manning. Would you like to have some Super Bowls and a gold jacket like those guys?
Sure.
Because he can have that.
Sure.
But he's got to just hold on and get through the craziness early in his career, Tony. That's all.
Happy anniversary, Vegas Golden Knights. On this day 4 years ago, the expansion team played its first game ever, defeating the Dallas Stars 2-1. Vegas became the most successful expansion team in NHL history, finishing 51-24-7 and ending up in the Stanley Cup final, where they lost to the Washington Capitals. Vegas has made the playoffs all 4 years, made the Western Finals 3 times. Most people assume the NHL would never stock an expansion team as well again. Well, we will see this season with the Seattle Kraken, the league's newest expansion team.
Ugh.
Hockey kicks off next week, and opening night will see Vegas against, you guessed it, Seattle.
Tony, the person I'm happiest for in Vegas and that organization is somebody we knew and covered right here in Washington, George McPhee, the president of the club in Las Vegas. Because I'm listening, he shepherded that whole thing through. And I know people might say, oh, he had favorable expansion draft. Hey, an expansion team comes in and does what that team has done, all the things you chronicled, George McPhee. I don't have any champagne in here, but cheers to him.
Happy trails, Jalen Smith. The Cowboys have released their linebacker. They're on the hook for his $7.2 million salary this season. Smith was once a feel-good story. The Cowboys took him in the second round in the 2016 draft, despite a serious leg injury he suffered in his final game at Notre Dame, the Fiesta Bowl, that knocked him out of the top 5 on many draft boards. Smith started every game for Dallas from 2018 to 2020. He made the Pro Bowl in 2019, but he did not start this year. In mid-talk, he had lost a step. Clearly, Smith did not see this coming, because in the offseason, he reportedly paid mid-6 figures to change his jersey from number 54 to number 9. And Wilbon, that's a lot of money for 4 games.
It is, Tony. I mean, days like today when you see Stephon Gilmore, just tossed aside in this news as well, it really does underscore NFL meaning not for long. Even if you're pretty darn good, it can mean not for long.
Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Speaking about not for long, the Padres fired Jace Tingler. Was that justified?
Tony, that was some collapse the Padres had. I guess it's justified. LSU All-American quarterback Derek Stingley Jr., Darryl Stingley Jr. is out. Derek Stingley Jr. is out indefinitely with a foot injury. That's a big loss, isn't it?
He's a first-round draft pick. LSU is going to face 4 ranked opponents in the next 4 weeks without this kid. That's not good for Ed Orgeron. Go Tigers. White Sox-Astros begins tomorrow afternoon. Which way are you leaning as if we don't know?
I'm rooting for the White Sox. But, Tony, I don't know that I see them beating the Astros, who I think held a 5-2 lead on them in the regular season. Carmelo Anthony will make his Laker debut tonight against the Suns. What do you expect?
2 dribbles to the right, go up and pop it. That's what he's been doing for 20 years. Pop
Or
it.
to the left.
Last one, WNBA Game 4s tonight. Sun, Sky, Aces, Mercury. Who you got?
Tony, I care about the Sky, up 2-1. Able to go to elimination. Allie Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot, and of course Candace Parker. That's who I'm rooting for.
Chicago's own.
That's
Who would have
right.
thought that
Candace
would happen?
Parker, Chicago's
We're out of
own.
time. Try and do better next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. Now, it's a ball night, Tony. Here's SportsCenter.
Not for